Friends, if you're looking for real old-school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm transgender.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
Fucking knows. All right, Tom, you got a song you want to play?
I do have a quick one here. Hopefully,
go for it.
It's kind of a work in progress, but
okay.
I wish it was about Barbie. It's not, so. But it kind of goes along with something you guys were just talking about. Well, I was feeling mighty randy. I just couldn't hide it. I had my cell phone handy, so I slipped to somewhere private. Well, my mouth started to water, and I couldn't believe the size of those cans now. There ain't no one hotter, yeah, I met your mom on OnlyFans. Oh yeah. Well, see, I'm her best customer. Oh yeah, she's so good to me, yeah. She loves the gifts I send her, 'cause she bakes me cookies. Oh, I'll make her mine. I don't care how. She's the best I ever had. Don't give me that look now, 'cause someday I might be your dad, yeah. I met your mom on OnlyFans. And I'm gonna make her mine. Yeah. That's right.
You just send her
Awesome,
enough
Tom.
money.
She makes really good cookies too.
Everywhere.
Someday I might be
feel
your
like-
dad.
I feel like that might actually be.
Stop eating my sesame cake. Stop eating my sesame cake!
Go. Oh yeah, yeah. Tiny hands, tiny feet, tiny legs, but such a big heart. If I ever lost my little lover, I'd fall apart. You showed me a life I'll never forget, 'cause I'm in love. Yeah, I'm in love with a midget. Such a little package, but a whole lot of love. She may look up at me, but she's an angel from above. I'm in love with a midget. I'm in love with a midget. Yeah, midget. Yeah, with a midget. Well, I love her from sundown to sunrise. I just can't get enough of her. Although she's fun size, she knows just how to do me right. Even at half the height, yeah. Such a little package, but a whole lot of love. She may look up at me, but she's an angel from above. I'm in love with a midget. Love with a midget. Love with a midget. A whole lot of love. I'm in love. I'm in love with a midget. I'm in love with a midget. Love with a midget, yeah.
Television highlights of the news of yesteryear.
It's Sunday! It's 8-something, and we got a Valiant Renegade raid incoming right at the proper time. Welcome to the show, kids. It is time for the weekly wrap-up here on Midnight's Edge After Dark. Hey, look at that. We got a lovely lady on the screen. Let me get that off there. I forgot to take that down. Oh, look at that. Mike's a YouTuber. We can't hear you, Culture. But hopefully, Mike will be here soon. How you doing, Culture Casino?
Push you down. Well,
Yeah, I will.
I will.
They had to ruin that song for me, didn't they?
What's funny is they're so stupid, right? They don't realize that song was sung or was written from the perspective of the girl who broke up with Rob Thomas.
Well,
It's
not just
him
that.
doing
It got
I'm-
canceled on the radio like years ago because of the
they're
stupid
dumb as
bullshit.
that. Because they're dumb. These particular wackadoodle-doos out there that are supporting this super intersectional feminism message, not brilliant. But anyway, hi everybody. Sorry
How's
about that.
everybody doing out there?
Hello. I got a late show coming up tonight. I got the lovely
You
ladies
do.
on Ladies Night. I'm very excited. And then, like after an hour of the discussion, I'm going to call it that. Then we'll go back to our regular, crazy
Is that how it works?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, it's a good game plan.
Is it?
I think so. I don't know. What do
You have a
got
Sunday
game
night
plan?
show?
What's in there? I feel like I'm going to be closing. I don't know. I've ever tuned guitar in the.
She said, I don't know if I've ever been good enough. I'm a little bit rusty and I think my head is caving in. It's not a hard song. And I don't know if I've ever been really loved
Image.
by a hand that's touched me, and I feel like something's gone to give. Cause I'm a little bit angry. Well, this ain't over. No, not here. Not while I still need you around. You ready? You don't know me, yeah, well, I might change. Well, yeah, we just might feel good. I wanna push you around. Same four chords over and over. I'm gonna play them again and again. Over and over, over and over. I will change it up just a little bit. Yeah, add one chord changes it all up. Yeah, well, I will.
All right.
Yeah, let's get it off.
Man,
That is one of my favorite fucking songs, though. I'm sorry.
it's
That
easy.
was when that song came out, man. That was like, oh my god, who are these fucking guys? Right?
Yeah.
And I bought that fucking CD and I listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, because I had this thing, like I could tell if like a movie star was going to be a movie star, if rock star or musician was going to be big. First time I heard that fucking song, I'm like, that's a big hit, and that album's going to be huge. After I listened to the whole thing, Collective Soul was another one back in the day.
Oh,
I love Collective
Yeah, especially the second album. Oh my god, I'm like, as soon as people start hearing this shit, I was like, because also like when I went to school for radio.
Right.
Our radio station guy would come in every week and he'd bring in all these fucking stacks of CDs and he'd play them. So I heard shit like Rob Zombie's album before it came out, like Dragula and all that shit. And I heard Lit before it came out. I am my own worst enemy, all that shit. Yeah, all that stuff back in the day. There's a few other ones at that time, Smash Mouth and some other stuff, yeah. But anyway, Tox, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Well, welcome to the program.
Yeah, college radio was great, man. All the indie stuff that came in,
Oh, yeah.
and I still have stuff from across the world. Independent stuff would come in.
That was the first time I'd heard. It was because of college radio. It was the first time I heard big black songs about fucking. That was fantastic. That's a real thing.
Okay.
Just saying. There was a lot of great stuff. I mean, and I got exposed to the punk movement, the whole 9 yards, and then
Speaking of punks, we got Andy Masterson here too.
Oh man,
We had WXP in Penn State's radio station. They always had a really good lineup. Very
I will be right, yo. Oh.
Oh, I bet you got a lot of that. Holy cow, I'm so jealous. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got a lot of indie stuff from Europe. But back in the days. And look at that. Here we are on YouTube, like radio.
6 proves that at least that part of the movie wasn't bullshit. Oh, well, I guess it was because the Kens didn't woo their Barbies with it. But look at 6 here. She's like, that was hot, and she's already, ready for
what do you
love.
want? They can't bend at the knee.
Like Barbies can bend at the knees.
Well, that could come in handy, especially when the patriarchy takes over.
Hello. I don't know if we're gonna really talk much about Barbie tonight. I know you sent me an article, Toxie.
He's still muted.
Sorry. I just got off the Devil Maybe Do It and
Devil
that channel
Maybe
there
Do It.
with the you were talking about top American muscle cars. So you were like an S tier list, all that stuff. Oh man.
Yeah, dude, that Get Rank show he's doing, that thing is like, that's ready to just go. I can't wait. I can't wait for that to take off.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Let me see here what you sent me earlier this week. I forgot what it was already. If my computer would quit being
Not the nudie pictures that I sent
well,
you. Not those.
Well, I wanted to talk about those.
Mm-hmm.
But
why is it so small?
Okay, best opening scenes. Maybe we can do that one.
Oh yeah, that one. Best opening scenes in film. I thought that was a good list.
Yeah, we'll check that one out. Maybe. You know, it'd be a good one if you could find it. Is it Shark Week?
Yeah, Shark Week.
Officially?
Yep. Well, it depends. You got Nat Geo that always starts a week early, and I think a lot of times they have better shows than the Discovery Channel. So,
really,
that's Shark pre-ejaculation week.
Pre-Shark Week?
Well, yeah, and
yeah, for the guys who just can't hold out for Shark Week, yeah.
Oh well, yeah, maybe it's got shows like this has never really happened to me before.
Little cocaine in their system.
Yes. What? Culture, I had a member stream today, and I had to be good on the member stream.
You were very good today.
Culture's internet kept crapping out, and then Mike and I took over. You know what you should do? You should
close enough not to get us in trouble, probably.
You should do a Jaws theme thing like that with like Mike swim in a river.
Ooh, that sounds good.
And it's guys in a boat, and guys, it's U.S. Border Patrol in a boat coming in.
I'm surprised a rock song has never used that. You know what I mean? Just like come in, just like Jaws 3 soundtrack needed some music, and just like. He's gonna bite your leg, gonna bite your ass. You better swim fast. Jaws. Shit like that, you know, like something awesome. But now they wouldn't be able to get away with that. But like in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, you could have.
Yeah, you probably could have. I mean, they're going after a lot of people now.
Remember the soundtrack to First Blood? Like that song is like the most blatant song ever. It's like when you draw first blood. You know, and all that stuff. It's like, it's a hard world. They'll kill you out there and all that shit. It's like, whoa, man, what the fuck? When songs just start explaining the movie. Anyway, moving on with that shit. We got a super chat. Scott Westbrook didn't say nothing, just sent in a super sticker.
Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you so much, Scott. We appreciate that here at the channel. That might pay for the Matchbox 20 claim. Because Lord knows they're probably litigious.
You think Matchbox 20 is? Well, it's not them particularly.
No, it's usually their company or whoever, yeah. They're big enough, though. Do I take requests? If I like the song.
He can take them, but there's no guarantee he's going to listen to them.
That's right.
That's true.
This is very true.
Ask anybody who's dated him. Jeez.
Ooh, hey.
You know what? I haven't even shared the screen. I haven't even shared the stream out yet. We got 500 people watching, so hit that like button, kids. Let me share this out. Let people know we're active.
Doing stuff.
We don't plan on talking about the Barbie movie here, but you never know.
Don't want to see it.
You haven't seen it yet at all, huh?
No, and I don't plan on it. All of the women in my life, sister, mother, daughters, wife, do not wish to go see it. So
didn't you say one of your kids wanted to see it though?
my middle son went with his wife and their friends, and they enjoyed it.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Well,
You said it was
it's
your
different.
son.
We were talking about this the other night, and
What's wrong with your sperm, toxic man flu?
there's a lot wrong with this. But, he was number 4, so it was, the swimmers were getting a little old.
Were you drinking or anything that night?
I was doing a lot of Molly.
Oh,
No, yeah,
okay.
doing a lot of lines. But that kind of what they're into. They thought the Pokemon movie was great. They thought Super Mario was great. He's a big fan of all the Transformer films and stuff like that. They don't.
Oh God.
They don't see any of the stuff that we do in these films. They're not what you would say is woke or whatever things from there. They filter all that out. These kids are all based. I'm having a discussion with them. It's the same group. July 4th. We're out at the fireworks stuff. We're talking to the kids and all that stuff from there. All of this BS that's out there in the world that's coming, like IDs, and they really think you need to have an ID to vote. And all of the stuff that we talk about on the political spectrum, they are 100% in that realm. It makes sense to them. It should be fair across the board. So one thing I can say about my children, they never knew that there was that there was a difference in skin color, that it mattered until they got to school. Right? They had friends, all different backgrounds, all different skin colors, where different countries, different accents, all that stuff. They had all that, and nobody told them that there was a difference until they got into school. And the teachers told them, well, you've been oppressed your whole life or whatever from there. And I'm 100% on the nurturing side. You get a good set of parents that are going to let the kids grow and do what they need to, learn at their own pace. I've had 5 kids. Each of them learn differently. I have to teach them differently. I have to adjust as the parent. That is my job, to adjust as a parent with them. I did that with them. And even though they went and they enjoyed this movie and they enjoyed Oppenheimer, they did the Barbenheimer. That was a cool thing to do for their group. I would not consider them to be problematic with this stuff. They didn't see any of those things. A few of the things were in there. They're big deal. It's just a movie. Right? They don't. That's not where they get their entertainment from, at all. That this is probably the first film. I think I was telling. I don't know if it was in Culture Stream or one of the Comics Division streams. The middle one is the only one that still goes to see all the Transformer films. My wife likes to go to those films. My wife likes explosions, disaster movies, all that kind of stuff. So does he. So they just went. They enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed Indiana Jones, and that kind of stuff, because it's not their thing, right? It like it is for us. So I'm reminded that these movies that they're making, Barbie, was not made for me and most of my family at all, but it was made for a percentage of the population that's very high, and it's making money at least this weekend. I don't know what's going to happen next week, but are the kids going to go back and watch this movie again? Nope.
Well, I mean, the thing with me is the more and more I think about the movie, the more I've seen, I've had to edit a video here, Andre's review, seeing more images, trailers, everything that's reminded me of the movie, the more I'm seeing a lot more symbolism than I saw before. So again, I hate saying it. I see this movie might be a hiccup to the end of the woke, right? Because I thought we were entering the final and now this movie just came back with a roar, right? And I mean, for anybody who wants to try and claim it's not political, they're full of shit. I mean, look,
it's there.
Oh, it's much
definitely there. But I think it's a mindset
on a subtext and a sub-level, and it's not only that, it's on the surface in some cases.
Right. Well, I didn't like Mission Impossible. It was a 6.
I didn't care for it as much,
but the reason that, my biggest complaint about Mission Impossible, because the wife and I went and saw that. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy anytime I'm out with my wife and we're seeing movies together. That's what we did when we dated, all that kind of stuff. So there's nostalgia there. Going to an empty theater these days. But I had done so much stuff for the channel to research thumbnail creation and video bits and stuff like that, that I'd seen the trailer multiple times. And the train scene was a little bit anticlimactic to me. And the only stuff that I liked was the stuff I didn't see in the trailer on the train scene. Where he jumps off the thing and the trick that everybody's seeing. I said it when it first came out. I'll keep saying it. They never should have alluded that happened, ever. Because it ended up being an anticlimactic scene. And everyone that I've known that's seen it says that wasn't even one of the best stunts in the place, in the movie.
Okay, I got a psychology test for everybody, because I did take little psychology. Okay, what's the prominent color you see here?
Blue.
Blue.
Okay. What's the prominent color you see here?
Pink.
Blue.
Okay, what color you see here?
Pink.
And blue.
Okay, I would actually argue, yes, it's more of a purple. So there's subliminal messaging all throughout this film. These two are together in this scene, so it's purple.
The
women are separated. It's pink.
Got it.
The men are at war. It's blue. Right? Very subtle colors that are normally associated with men and women. Not just Barbie. There's all kinds of subtle... No, I can't even believe that it took me till today to pick up on the fact that Ken was building a wall.
Yeah. That's funny. You know what's kind of funny about the whole pink and blue thing?
There's subtext in this movie that people are not picking up on.
Yeah, what's funny about pink and blue is pink was a traditional boy's color. Because red was a male color because of blood, right? And so in the Middle Ages and things and stuff, fighting and all that, red was male because it was blood, and pink was a young boy's color because they had not bloodied themselves in battle yet. The whole thing from there. And blue was a color everybody used because of indigo. You could, grow that, and you could dyes. I mean, you're kind of limited by the colors you could use because of dyes. And purple was royalty because it was so expensive to make a purple dye and stuff from there. But
I'm just talking more about the modern symbolism. But you're not wrong.
I understand the modern symbolism. It's just symbolism switches back and forth. What they did in this film, the wall thing.
Oh yeah, it was very much in our face. I was being kind of sarcastic there.
Right.
But that's just little subtle things. Like, this thing is... Look, I don't want to talk about it no more. And I'm glad...
I think we need to get past it, yeah.
Sent me this because we have the best opening scenes in movie history. So let's go through this and see if we agree or not. This comes 14 hours ago from Chris Morgan over at Microsoft, I guess. Or where is this? Yardbarker?
Yardbarker. It's a sports site.
Okay. The best opening scenes in movie history. Want to grab the movie audience? It helps to have a great opening scene. That's especially true these days, with more and more people watching films at home with a litany of potential distractions around them. If you want to be hooked from the first moments of a movie, these are the movies that are the best opening scenes. Okay, well, here's a few of what I would consider directors who have mastered the opening scene. You've got, like, Kubrick. You've got Hitchcock. You've got Tarantino, Scorsese. These guys all know how to get you sucked into a movie quick. Spielberg used to be able to do it quite a bit. Not so much anymore. Can you guys think of any other examples that I'm missing out on here?
George Lucas.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, once it was edited down, yeah.
Yeah, so it may not have been him. And I think we have to acknowledge that some of these opening scenes are not so much the directors 100%.
Sometimes the editors, you're right. Yeah,
sometimes it's the editors, sometimes it's the writers. But the people that you mentioned, Kubrick, especially Kubrick.
Coppola is another good one.
Coppola knew what he was doing. Kubrick and
Sergio. Yep.
Sergio Leone. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Friedkin. Hell yeah. Like, talk about getting you into a movie. Exorcist doesn't have a single word until what? Like 3-4 minutes into the fucking movie. Yet you're just boom. When, as soon as that movie starts, and you know everything that's happening, you got what's going down. You're just like, these two are gonna battle each other.
Yeah.
Not a word is spoken.
I think it's an art that's lost. Because why is a movie 3 hours now? Because they don't know how to they don't know how to grab you into the story. They don't know how to tell that story in 3 to 5 minutes. Right? A movie 90 minutes, 2 hours max. Unless you're doing an epic like Lord of the Rings or something like that, right? There's few epics out there. But
yeah.
Come in and grab me, and it doesn't have to be this overwhelming shock and awe thing to grab me.
Well, and
right?
that's
There's
funny
some
you mentioned that
stuff. Yeah,
because I've had to have the new 50. It's not new, but I've had it for the last, I don't know, half dozen years or so, where I have this 15-minute rule now. Because I used to be to where I never used to have to worry about it. A movie would generally work for me, or it just wouldn't. But I don't remember usually quit watching a movie unless it was something really bad. But in the last few years, movies have been so bad that I've had to create this 15-minute rule. And I think Culture, you have something similar. I think you have like a 20-minute rule. I think you brought up before.
Yeah.
But basically, if the movie doesn't bring you in the first 15, 20 minutes, you're done.
I'm done. Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, that is the absolute poison of this film, because there was definitely something that could have been good here. It was rather intriguing. It was a little depressing. I kind of knew what I was in for. I knew this wasn't going to be for me, but by the time we reached the 15-minute point, I knew I was done. And then
if you're talking about Barbie, I'd say that was a bait and switch, because the first 20 minutes aren't bad. It's when you get past the Barbie world stuff.
Yeah, but I was already done because I was already seeing a lot of the men are stupid stuff from the very beginning. But it's just when it comes to seasons of television, I give everything 3 episodes. When it comes to films, it's 15, 20 minutes. When it comes to that, I mean, I'm just like, look, I already know what you are. Right. Mm-hmm. You're either going to sell me or you're not. Mm-hmm. And more often than not now, things lose me almost right away. Like I make it through 7 minutes of things sometimes, like the Batman movie. I'm like,
yes,
oh, it's so weak.
You're right.
Like,
I have the same thing now, like 9 minutes. Sometimes I'll check out is the average now, I think. But all right, let's break into these. The best opening scenes according to this guy. Casino Royale in 2006. You know what? Full disclosure, I have not seen this one, so you guys are going to have to duke it out with this one. As we get introduced to Daniel Craig as James Bond, we are also introduced to what kind of movies this version of Bond was going to star in. Going back to the beginning, we see Bond becoming a 00 agent after getting his necessary confirmed kills. The only quibble, the first time we saw it, we thought the black and white was a technical glitch.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I can agree with that. When I saw that open, I was like, kind of thinking, okay, they're trying to bridge the gap. We got a new Bond. They got to do something here, right? Mm-hmm. And go ahead, Culture.
Oh, no, I like that take. I wouldn't have looked at it that way.
Yeah, so I was thinking that to me, when I sat in a theater and watched this, they're throwing back to the original, the stuff from The Saint, right? And Bond was always a color film, and stuff from there. But it was throwing from when that came out, when Ian Fleming wrote those things, and that time that movie set kind of bringing it into the future with a new Bond and stuff from there. And they were we're going to encompass everything that's in there. And my hope was Daniel Craig would be all of the Bonds in one. Because Timothy Dalton wasn't bad, but wasn't great. I thought Pierce Brosnan was a better Bond than him. I like Lansby. I thought that was a good film. I liked that one, but I don't think he had much of a chance, really, with that.
Well, he and Albert Broccoli did not get along.
Yeah, you could tell there was tension all over the place with that one.
Yeah,
and of course, Roger Moore was the Bond that I grew up on, and saw stuff from there. But he was also in The Saint, so I saw him in The Saint before he was in Bond. Right, Same. So that's what brought this opening together for me, was all of the lore that I knew from Bond, plus reading some of the books, plus some of the spy stuff that came out from that, even Armand Flint and some of those things and stuff like that, all came together. I'm like, okay, they're bringing all this into, and this guy is going to be all of that in there. And at least in this film, I thought he kind of was. I enjoyed this film.
And yet I'm going to say this. I will say that the opening scene in here is great. I've never thought of it from your perspective, bringing the past to the future. But for me, it was telling you by using black and white that what you were seeing was in the past, his recent past, because black and white reflected things that were happening before. And, you were being introduced to Bond in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was like a way to indicate time, between present and past. But again, I mean, it works either way for that purpose. And then I did think that the opening the opening beginning that people have referred to as the parkour scene is fine. But one of the biggest problems that I have with this film is that he didn't become anything. He was basically James Bourne. That's what it is. This was the James Bond that was the Jason Bourne, and we never got away from that.
I can agree with that. Yeah, it's kind of like Star Trek. So Star Trek 2009, it came out in the same basic timeline, right? Here. So they took Star Trek and made it more like Star Wars, more action-based. This was more of the Jason Bourne action minute kind of thing that was going on, which, yeah, for some people that's what it was. But yeah, I'd agree that's a great astute point from Culture Casino about this movie. It did not deliver 100% on what I had hoped that he was going to be all of these Bonds together in there, because I didn't see any of the humor. You have to admit, some of the Roger Moore movies are a little campy. Okay. But I didn't see
you kind of need that camp though, and this is where I can come in because like I have only seen the first 5 Bond movies. And out of all those first 5, like I didn't really start liking them until like the 3rd or 4th one, because that's when it started feeling like James Bond. Like before that, it was just kind of a little dry yet, and then it finally got a little shaken and not stirred. And then it was finally, Bond. And then what I see though, is that you needed a little bit of that campiness. You needed a little bit of that kind of what makes Mission Impossible, right? Like, at least the Tom Cruise ones, because that kind of is, loosely more like a Mission Impossible is more like 007 now than it is Mission Impossible. But that being said, you kind of need that little, all the stuff that Austin Powers would make fun of. You kind of need a little bit of that. That's what makes Bond, at least in my opinion. But I don't know, Andy, did you have anything to add or subtract to that, or say about Bond before we move on to some super chats to the next one?
No, I've only actually seen the first of the Daniel Craig. It just didn't feel. I mean, Connery was my favorite. I was never that invested in the Bonds originally when they came out. We watched a lot of the Roger Moore when I was growing up. God knows it was on all the cable channels with Moonraker, and the scene where they're rolling on the plane and the sword bends. But yeah. I liked Dalton. I liked the edgy version they were giving him. And of course, I'd been watching Pierce Brosnan on Remington Steele. And then when they gave him the Bond role, it was like, all right, yeah, he's pretty good with this. Connery's always my favorite because Connery, you got the feeling like when he could do both. You got the feeling he could definitely tune you up and not, be phased at all about it, like, and just move on, have a martini afterwards. So yeah, and the Craig ones, like, I agree with what everybody said about the similarities to the Bourne Identity and things. It's almost like it kind of absorbs that it's the it thing right now, and we have to incorporate, like, you saw the parkour stuff in Winter Soldier, you saw the parkour stuff in the Bourne Identity. Now you see a little bit of this. It's like, all right. It doesn't have to be everywhere.
No. I mean, it made sense in the first Taron Egerton was in Kingsman. First Kingsman film. I thought that was more Bond than anything else that I got out of these films.
Yes.
And that's why that movie worked. And Taron Egerton is
I can see that.
That was his first film ever. And you talk about finding a raw talent. Yeah. The guy can act.
He'd be a good Bond too.
He'd be incredible.
He would be incredible in this role because he's already done it. That's what Kingsman was and
he's not too old either.
No,
that's
he could
the other
do it.
thing.
He could do
Because
it.
a lot of the people throw out are like, look, I love Henry Cavill and certain other people that people keep throwing out there. Even Idris Elba would be interesting take on it. But
age,
you got to kind of keep him in that age range to where he's sophisticated but not so fucking old that he gives off the creepy old man vibes.
Well, Spy Game is a young man's game, right? I I mean, Andy's in great shape, but Idris Elba would make a
Andy,
great Bond
I
villain.
doubt you give off too many old man creepy vibes. Even as an older man, you are very much a good looking man. So don't even go there.
No,
you're one of
thank
those
you, but-
guys that are fortunate to have good looks later in life. So
Andy's 98 years old, folks. Look at that.
yeah, you didn't know that? He's 98. Yeah.
He's 98.
Where's my ice cream?
He's spry for 98. All right, let's keep moving then.
Yeah,
We got some super chats here. Since we got a commercial on the fucking thing. Troy Neenan sends in 5 Australian and says ABC is not worth $1 billion. If YouTubers or streamers bought it, does owning ABC give you special powers like movie tax breaks or distribution? No. ABC is a TV network. I would honestly argue it's probably worth, what would you say, Culture? At least a couple billion. Because I mean, Fox was worth 70.
Yeah,
so.
as much. Well, and again, Fox was a multiple stuff, but no, you're right.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, just in that alone, like, I mean, kind of pull out like what, 10, 20 million, billion at least. I mean.
Yeah, or Iger overspent to the tune of 12 billion to get Fox. So that's, let's start at that point. But no, I think you probably are worth about. It's probably worth about 6, because of the asset holdings, the distribution, the licensing, the all of the back, provided you get all of the back television programs and everything that the
as long as ABC owns it, I don't see why not.
Yeah. So if it's still under the Capital Cities heading that came along with they started a whole new company to acquire it, or Disney did. So if you get everything that's within that, what that company is or that sector is, you probably are going to be okay at about 5 to 6 billion. But
I think it's worth a little bit more than that, but that's just my opinion because it's a network, dude.
Well, except that here, I'm looking at the fact that everything's hollow now. Because
I don't disagree with that, but as is, like as it stands, like
it's a declining asset at best, because you're watching the numbers shrink. I bet you their revenue, a standalone revenue, is not significant enough to offset the amount of debt you'd have to take on to acquire it.
So let's say that we, as a group of students, the fellowship, bought ABC.
Yeah.
The first thing, I'm just going to start out, the first thing I would do is fire Jimmy Kimmel and hire Chrissy Mayer. First thing I would do in that group, right? Yeah. Or maybe Quarter Black and Dave Landau for what they're doing on the Blaze. That's the first thing I do. Get rid of that. Get rid of the censors and sit there and say, okay, we're not going to have any ESG. It's going to be funding us. Let's make late night funny again. It's the first thing I would do.
Yeah, I think.
Well, you're still under the purview of the FCC, but
I mean, you would have to tone it down a little bit, but you can make situations funny.
It does need a complete overhaul, though. I'm not going to argue with that at all. Yeah, Tiger Valley says, might be a dumb question, but I'm on a Tarantino kick lately, and it got me curious. Does Tarantino own his films? Can't seem to find an answer online. This is my understanding, Tiger Valley, and again, this is not, I don't have anything to back this up with or anything like that, but my understanding is pretty much anything since his first couple movies, he has owned the distribution rights to it.
He's got Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I know that.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, and so I mean, if
Dust
it's not,
to Dawn,
least,
I don't think he does.
I think up through Jackie Brown, maybe Miramax
Great
owns,
film.
but other than that, I think he owns everything after that as far as distribution goes. But I could be mistaken on a title or two, but. I know he has quite a bit of control over how it's released and such too, though.
He should release some of his films into theaters again for like a weekend. If they're really interested in helping out the theaters and stuff, have his films in order, playing in theaters for an entire week, or a couple of weekends in a row.
I never saw Reservoir Dogs in a theater. I'd like to do that.
Oh my goodness! But to see Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. In IMAX or high definition digital,
to have somebody
back,
somebody flicking blood in the audience. So.
That would get the whole Rocky Horror Picture Show thing. Yeah.
Let's
you might
get back
think you're behind Paul Rubens. So.
Let's get back to the openings. Greatest openings of all time. Number 2 is, or at least I think we're going in reverse order. I would imagine. Ghostbusters.
I don't think that they gave it a number. They just did top 10.
Just did top. Whatever, 21 it looks like.
Yeah.
Before we ever see the titular Ghostbusters, we get a nice introduction to the world of the film. It's a little funny, a little scary, and a lot of fun. Pity that poor librarian, but she's vital to setting the tone and also setting up the killer theme song. Well, the thing is with Ghostbusters and why the opening scene works for this one and partially to the second film is because this film specifically is shot like a horror movie. It's not shot like a comedy. It is straight up shot like a horror movie to the point where even the opening scene is almost an homage to classic horror films. Like, how often does a almost completely unrelated character in a movie open it up? I mean, even Scream made fun of it, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of one of the main tropes is you open with a character that you think might be your lead character, but oh no, they're going to die or they get scared or whatever it was, you know, and they have really nothing to do with the rest of the story. That's basically this opening scene here. But it's also great because within the first 10, 15 minutes, we get this whole bunch of stuff to introduce us to who the Ghostbusters are, what they're going to do, the catalyst for them starting the business, all within these first few scenes here that set it all up. And it's just a crazy, I mean, they're showing a bit here after the trailer credits, but I mean, it's a fun fucking movie. Who doesn't like Ghostbusters? Yeah, I agree. Great open.
100%. 100%. This one of those things that just brings you into it. And they talk about subverting expectations. So we got that a lot there. They were doing that. This is subverting expectations. But it was just storytelling. They didn't have a title to it. It wasn't some special thing. This is what you did to get people into your movie, to pull them in. This is, as you say, shot like a horror film. It was just something the genre did, and they applied it to a comedy. That's the genius. It's like
it was a lot like, and it was a lot like the old, somewhat like that, but I was going to say maybe even a little bit more like Abbott Costello back in the day when they would meet, you know, the monsters and stuff, because they would always take the monsters seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it was just those guys would be the ones reacting to everything, would be the humor. And that's kind of what this movie is, right? It's them reacting to this stuff and the one-liners that make it a comedy, but and the scene setup sometimes and all that business. But otherwise, I mean, if you take out some of those elements, like you could make this a straight up drama, action, sci-fi movie too, if you wanted to. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a comedy, but the fact that you've got, you know, 4 or 5, if you count all the entire cast of some of the funniest people alive at that time. I mean, that's what makes this movie extra special, right? Because it could have been good and then just been whatever if it was like starring, you know, Tom Cruise and Tom Selleck and a couple action guys, you know, or something like that, just your typical kind of action dudes, and not been a comedy. But having Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, I mean, 4 guys that, I mean, come on. Can you think of funnier guys at that time besides maybe Eddie Murphy, Steve Martin at the most? Like, I mean, come on. I can't.
Oh, that was right. That was perfect for those guys because the audience that went to see that, we grew up on Saturday Night Live when those guys were on the original.
Exactly.
Cast. And so when we got to see them like actually break out into roles like that, because this was a big film and we had been used to seeing like Caddyshack and Meatballs and things, but
Animal House, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then when you got these guys together on this thing, it was a powerhouse.
Yeah, this movie almost didn't happen because of Blues Brothers in a weird way. But go ahead, Culture. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to add to it. I would say, the way that this film opens, it grabs you from the beginning, and you're not quite clear what kind of film it's going to be. You knew the guys you were facing here were comedians, you know. But while there was a chuckle or two in this opening sequence, there was a jump scare as well as, you know, a couple of other really funny moments. And the opening of this film really did work. Really
I remember when they were advertising for this before it opened, and it wasn't quite clear exactly what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. It was treated a little bit mysteriously, and then when it landed and you started getting the reviews.
Yeah, it was advertised a lot like Gremlins, I remember. Yeah.
But wow.
What I mean was, you're right. Like, they didn't really kind of give you an idea of what exactly you were going to see in this movie. I mean, with Ghostbusters, all you knew is it had Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis in it, and it was going to have some ghosts in it. You know, you didn't really realize that they were going to look like cool-ass ghosts. I'm sure a lot of people thought it was going to be like a goofy, cheapy comedy. But like Gremlins, the other hand, they hid that movie, making people thinking it was going to be E.T. 2. But, Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
this-
Toxie. Oh, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
When you had that the librarian there, and you had some of those special effects, because that librarian was right there with the special effects in Poltergeist. That was creepy as hell.
Yes, same
Yeah.
guys worked on Poltergeist. Yep.
Yeah, that was a three level mixed presentation that you saw, that compositing there. It was very well done, and they used some old tech that we've had since like the 50s and 60s. It's called a bad K tube. You get a camera with a bad K tube, and you could do all that kind of stuff that would make it look like things were, people were walking through the room, but they didn't show up. Like then a ghost of somebody would show up on the camera and stuff. It's just because it was still collecting all that bad information and putting it back out. Very cool stuff.
I like to add when we do it on Doomcock Show from the old man's perspective, because a lot of this younger generation has grown up on all the CGI stuff. But back then, when you got a chance to see something like that, it was so different and it was so realistic from what we were used to doing.
Oh, absolutely.
It was actually frightening watching it. And I remember my dad told me, because my father, he saw the original Frankenstein in the theaters in 1933. And it cost a nickel to get in. He would always remind me. Cost a nickel to see the movie, but he said it was absolutely terrifying back then because nobody had ever seen anything like it. And we got the opportunities to see a lot of that stuff happen when they innovated new practical effects and things. And I feel bad for these new generations because everything they see, they're just going to assume is CGI.
Well, and that's kind of the thing with, not to bring the Barbie movie again, but look, the one thing I will give that movie credit for is its practical sets. They are fucking amazing. And I seen even a documentary about the sets while I was working on this latest video for Andre, but like, yeah, man, I was just kind of blown away by seeing all that because we don't see that anymore. And even going to the CGI thing, Andy, you're right, because I was just watching The Incredible Hulk the other night, a movie that's barely 15 years old. And there's like, oh my God, I forgot how little CGI there really is in this movie. Because you only see the Hulk, 4 or 5 times through the whole movie compared to all the newer Marvel movies where it's literally wall to wall CGI. Like they said, the newest Aquaman movie, there's not one shot of that movie that doesn't have some sort of CGI in it.
Well, and again, I mean, when it looks real, 9 times out of 10 back then it was. Again, you were using bad K-tube cameras. You were using practical effects with the Pepper's ghost effect. You were using all these other techniques that we've used in film forever, and that's why this film worked. Because it's real. You weren't trying to composite this thing in a computer 1,000 times over just to make it look real. No, you used the real thing and you made it look, like a ghost
or a composite or whatever. But still, even then, it was a real ghost. You're right. Like Andy would tell you, it was a ghost made out of, in this case, it was mixed between an actual actress and makeup who they filmed in front of a green screen and diffused her to where you had kind of a see-through kind of quality.
Yeah.
And then when she transforms, she's this hideous puppet, basically, and the same kind of filters are applied. But and I agree with JB Spooky's review to a point. Ghostbusters should be number 1 on every list. Well, it's pretty close to number 1 on most of mine. It's pretty,
and it's and that other comment out there is it's infinitely quotable. Yes, it is. Anyway.
Yeah, there's some great lines in that.
Oh boy.
Ooh. The long goodbye. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Elliot Gould. Does Tom know he's muted?
No, I didn't know I was muted. Thank you. The Long Goodbye in 1973. I was like, yeah, is that Elliot Gould? And then somebody said something, so I thought you actually answered me. How do you start a revisionist film noir that will see Philip Marlowe going into the world of the rich vein Californians by having Marlowe scramble to get his cat some food in the middle of the nice? I think he means night. Yes. Does that sound good? Guess what? It's absolutely riveting and shows the genius of Elliot Gould as an actor. I've never seen this movie. Have you guys at all?
Nope.
I've only seen it once, and for the life of me, cannot even remember a minute of it. So that's not good. I mean, I outline the premise, sure, but no, I can't remember it. So, and again, when this came out in theaters, I was 3.
This is the movie that the guy who wrote this is going to be like trying to put on here. Be like, look, I'm like a film guy. Yeah. Oh, here we go. This should be number 1, but hey, Jaws.
Yeah.
Another cold open of an ending that doesn't feature any of the main characters. A couple party goers on the beach sneak off to go skinny dipping. One guy never enters the water. The poor woman does. Next thing we know, movie history is made. Again, opening just like a horror film. You have a damsel being chomped to bits by an unseen force under the water. Brilliantly done by Spielberg. I mean, John Williams' score is the true star, I guess, of this scene, other than the actress who plays Chrissy. I mean, what can we say about Jaws that we haven't already? But yeah, go ahead, guys. Who wants to take it first?
I was 8 years old when I saw this, and I live close to the Jersey Shore, and what a ghost town that year.
That's funny, but you say that, but I keep forgetting you're just slightly older than I am. And, I didn't get to see this right out the bat because there was nobody, stupid enough to take me to this. I started seeing horror films about 7 or 8, but I wasn't seeing it at 5. When I did eventually get to see this film, oh my goodness, you fall in love with it immediately. And it's not just the opening segment's ridiculous, and you don't need a shark. We found that out. You don't need a shark to make a freaking scary shark movie. You just don't.
You know what was cool? They had a board game. It was it was a Jaws board game. And it would chomp up, it was kind of like Hungry Hippos or something like that.
Oh, my grandma had that. It was like a shark and it was like curved.
Yeah.
And he pulled the teeth out and stuff out of it, and stuff out of his mouth or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, but it was great working with Star Wars figures into it, and
oh, trust me, that was my Jaws for a while. Yeah.
It would chomp away on everybody.
Remember the first time asking Grandma, "Can I take this in the bathtub?" It's like, hell yeah. But yeah. Speaking of horror film openings, Scream, one of the most famous opening vignettes to horror movie ever. Drew Barrymore was the movie's biggest star, and the film starts with her. The marketing focused on her. She gets a phone call. Scary movie comes up, and things go poorly from there. Let's just say Barrymore's screen time turns out fairly limited. Now, I will say that this is one of those hotly debated horror films now. It was almost universally beloved when it first came out. But I would say that horror fans have kind of factioned on this movie ever since, because some, like Andre and to a point myself, feel like Scream was the demarcation. It was kind of the point where things changed, and horror was never the same ever since. But as a whole, on that level, the first film, I mean, you got to give them credit that they sold that movie the way they did. It's one of those few times where you go in with certain expectations and you are completely surprised one way or another by the film. And I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those movies I remember seeing as a teenager in the theaters and going, what the fuck? Because my friends drugged me to it. I didn't even really want to see it, because Beavis and Butthead opened the same day Scream did. The Beavis and Butthead movie. So I was all about going to see Beavis and Butthead. I didn't give a shit about Scream. And neither did most of the country until about a few weeks later. Then all of a sudden it started getting word of mouth. And it was literally one of the last times I remember a sleeper hit, a true sleeper hit. Since now, up until maybe now, is Sound of Freedom, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there was a few in between there, but it was just a hit. It was a hit at the time. And yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Anybody want to say something about Scream? I seen culture is kind of there. Yeah.
I mean, it was okay. The opening I think is the best part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then afterwards, it's like, I don't know. I was never a big fan of the slasher genre. I always liked my horror movies to be monsters, like, Dracula and Frankenstein and creatures and things like that. And, it was, they were, and and I think what it was, because when the first Halloween came out, that was great. But then there became this redundancy. Nightmare on Elm Street was great. And then it sort of became, it got a little old on itself. The first ones are usually great like this when they have it at a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
And this had a cool twist to it. I liked it, but it was like, it wasn't something I was going to watch over and over again.
Well, and that's kind of fair, because that's what I'm saying too, is like, yeah, at the time it was something completely different. We never seen anything like it. as a movie on its own, great flick, one of Wes Craven's best. But that's where I agree with, like, the effect that it had on the genre as a whole was probably a big negative, even though it helped boost horror for a couple of years afterwards. Every movie for the next, I don't know, 10 years or whatever was a Scream ripoff. Everything from I Know What You Did Last Summer to Urban Legend to even one of the more original ones of that era, Final Destination, still had echoes of Scream in it, right?
Scream retroactively ruined every future film, and it also ruined itself for me. I agree with Andy. The beginning is fantastic, but it ruined stuff. It ruined horror, and it still is. There's still echoes of it and stuff. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I think at a certain point in Megan, I was like, oh, please don't do this.
No, it's a really tough one for me because it's like a love-hate thing with it. Yeah. Snell's World says, thoughts on latest Doomcock and Pasha video? I haven't watched it yet, so I can't comment. I usually don't get into much to other people's dramas and whatchamacallit, rumors and whatnot. So yeah, not too often. But yeah, is Toxie back yet? Did he want to say anything about this? I don't think he is. I think he had to step away for a bit there. The Lion King, an animated film, can grab me from the opening as well. The Lion King wastes no time getting the movie revved up. It opens just not with a song, but with an epic circle of life number, which features many animals showing up for the reveal of young Simba. Yeah, kind of hard to argue. Of all the Disney films, it probably has one of the more bombastic openings, I guess.
I think largely because it opens with such a powerful musical.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I can't argue with that. I'm actually kind of, I'm really turned off by the live action remakes of all of these wonderful properties. And I'm like I said, I mean, all you're doing is hurting, the previous films at this point. And I think that, Jean Favreau did the best he could with what he was given to try to do a shot for shot faithful recreation of this, only with a bunch of 3D CGI junk, just like he did with Jungle Book. But I just feel like maybe that was a mistake,
Well, to be honest, I mean, they're not live action. They're just animated with computers now. I mean, you have like, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, exactly.
All CGI. The Lion King is all CGI animals. What's that horrible thing that I'm trying to block my memory? Oh yeah, Little Mermaid with all the CGI fish and stuff like that. It's like, and they don't even look like they're underwater. It's and I think what it is that we know that Disney is notorious for screwing over their special effects departments. A friend of ours was famously cheated out of his pay when he was working for them.
I think he's talked about it publicly if you want to name him.
And,
so, yeah.
But yeah, like they just up and left and he never got paid. So but I don't think anybody really wants to work with Disney anymore. And it's not like you need them for the notoriety because like, what have they produced lately that's really impressive? That's why I'm thinking Disney is really in a hole because like it would be one thing if they had something in the pipe that could bring them back, but everything they have is dying. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Especially with Beauty and the Beast. I was like, why is this CGI? Like you would have impressed people, I think, a lot more had it been practical effects. It's pretty sad when Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton's Beauty and the Beast from back in the 80s was a bit more convincing than that.
And Emma Watson, I mean, she's kind of cute, but she's not beautiful.
Nah.
She's you would need somebody stunning to be in that.
Well, and she couldn't sing either.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Spielberg, here's the second Spielberg selection, Jurassic Park. There are so many great set pieces in Jurassic Park. There's a reason it became one of the biggest films ever. And the progenitor? How do you say that word? Progenitor? Progenitor. That I knew the word, but I was trying to remember how to say it. Arguably the franchise, but with the most diminishing returns ever. It begins with the opening scene, though, which sees Muldoon and his crew trying to get new raptors into the park. things go poorly and immediately sets the scene for epic action movie. Look, I mean, it may have diminishing returns story-wise, but you can't say shit about its box office because these movies keep making fucking bank. So,
Look, let's be honest here. What little boy does not want to see dinosaurs?
exactly.
I know the Jurassic World movies are shitty, but I like watching the dinosaurs. It's just fun.
I actually care. Like, I'm more excited by seeing some of the toys and shit that come out of it because Jurassic Park always had the best dinosaur toys compared to anybody else.
Oh, I had a great time when my son was little. I'd sit there and I'd go and buy him this one and buy him that one. My wife's sitting one time like, "Are you buying that for him or for yourself?" Shut up! Like, he likes these.
I think this came out at the perfect time for the younger siblings that I have. This film was perfect because their toy chest expanded at a time when they were very invested in dinosaurs and the similar toys that came around this era. But in all honesty, I mean, it would have been better it had come out 10 years earlier or 15 years earlier because it would have very much taken advantage of something that had already been well in our zeitgeist at the time. The late 70s, we were already a culture fascinated with dinosaurs that were being sold to us in mass at museums and everywhere else. The La Brea tar pits had started to become even more visited at that period of time in the late 70s. So, like I said, I mean, everything has a time, but this was an amazing film and very enjoyable. It created a bunch of fossil hunters and folks that were interested in that, paleontologists, of course, that once they figured out you make no money doing that, I bet you that was kind of a bummer. But.
Well, yeah, but Tox, you got anything to say about Jurassic Park? Back? No? Saw him in the chat, I wasn't sure. But no, I love Jurassic Park, especially the first one, obviously. I mean, it's a great flick, and yeah, the opening is really good. Go ahead.
I do like the third one too. It's just fun.
I don't like the whole movie, but I like aspects of it. I like the fact that they used things from the original novel that didn't get used in the original movie. The storyline is kind of dumb though, because like I mean, there's that aspect. There's things like obviously like the raptors communicating with each other through their noises and all that business was kind of cool, but yeah. And we got Brian, aka 70s Rock Fan, coming in for Jurassic Park.
Evening,
it's frightening in the dark.
It is. Your S.H. Park. I brilliant movie. Saw it in the cinema when it came out.
Yeah.
Totally impressed. Changed an awful lot of things about cinema.
Well, if you're not up to speed with what we're doing here, we're going through this list of best openings of all time according to this dude.
Openings, okay, right.
Yeah. So we're on Sunset Boulevard. Believe it or not, this is a movie I have not had a chance to see yet. Obviously, I know quite a bit about it, but the blurb here says, we bet in 1950 the ending of Sunset Boulevard felt even more daring and interesting. Film opens with narration, police officers and photographers huddle around a pool. A victim floats face down. It belongs to Joe Gills, who happens to be the aforementioned narrator. The movie opens with our main character dead, and the flashback, and then flashes back to tell the rest of the story. So yeah, like I said, I'm very familiar with the movie, but I've never gotten a chance to actually seen it from beginning. And anybody here have a chance to ever see it?
I've seen it a few times over the years, but I don't think I've seen it for 25.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, you'd have to go back to my very first film class. But look, I mean, the first semester, second semester, both semesters of film, you get exposed to films like this, great films like this, and I would have to agree. But I have not seen this in probably 20 years. It's a good film.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Wilder, I don't know if he wrote it, certainly directed it, I think. He was always one of my favorites in the past. I don't think I've rewatched any of his stuff for a while. I mean, he just did an awful lot of great movies. But yeah, it's a pretty clever opening. I mean, I guess there's been, I can't think of any, but I'm pretty sure there's probably been other movies have started with the main character dead.
Mhm.
It must have been.
I can think of a
8
few, but I don't always want to say it because then it'll be like, you know.
I can think of a few where I wish the main character
was dead.
Oh, you mean Captain Marvel?
Is that some kind of personal attack?
Yes, yes, it was.
I want to be the best me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you accomplished that.
Good. Go get a pedicure.
Here we go. Now, here's a movie I've seen many a time. And God, this
tension-filled opening. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, this may not be my favorite Tarantino movie, but this is probably him at his most Hitchcocky and best as far as pulling you into a story. Because, my God, and the funny thing is how they blatantly ripped it off in Rogue One. Without even trying, like, because my review, even though I enjoyed the movie for the most part, like my original review for Rogue One was like, I just got done seeing Star Wars Glorious Bastards.
Inglorious Rogues. They couldn't say the word bastards.
Yeah, Inglorious Rogues. It feels like a little weird to me, you know, that it's a great opening scene to a movie when a Nazi finds a Jewish family and murders them. That being said, it is a gripping, harrowing scene. Christoph Waltz effectively won his Oscar based on this scene alone. And fortunately, Shoshana gets away from Hans Landa, which sets into motion the rest of Inglourious Bastards.
Right.
I would argue the whole film got him that. I mean, he is fucking amazing in this movie from beginning to end. I mean, he's the best part. I wish people would use him more often.
Well, I mean, he has a particular look, Tom. Sometimes you're stuck because of your look. But I got to slide out and get ready for my show here in 30. So
that's what he said.
It's the estrogen special for culture tonight.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's going to start out that way, but then I promise you, the panel will evolve and we'll go back to our normal crazy that I don't seem to be able to control.
Will you be putting on the pink shirt?
I'm not going to spoil what's going to happen.
Andy, he's completely pink underneath that outfit.
Well, that's also true. I have a regimen, that I have to go through.
Except for the chest weave.
Hey, look, yeah. Well, I tell you what, we're getting closer to 10K pretty soon. I think people are going to get a look at that. I'm very sorry for them. Let me tell you. On that note, keep it up, guys. This is a great stream. I love these ideas. This is working good, and I'll see you all very later. Love
See you later, buddy.
See you in a bit. All right. Anybody got anything else to say about Inglourious Bastards?
No, but not particularly to add, but the tension is incredible in that opening. It's rare to get tension like that in a movie these days. You were talking about Scream earlier. Everything's so ironic now,
Yep.
That one was just played exactly straight.
And meta. Yeah.
Meta. Everything's meta. Yeah, this was straight ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going here. We got like 10 more to go, I think. Goodfellas, yes. Talk about a great fucking opening. Opening shot. The narration from Ray Liotta is great. I mean, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. One of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to you guys for now.
Well, I mean, it's one of the all-time greats, isn't it? I mean, and I guess it would be a shame if the rest of the movie hadn't lived up to the opening, but it did and more. So the bar was set pretty high early on. Great movie.
Yeah, I like this better than The Godfather.
As a film overall, or just the opening, you mean?
As an overall film, it's
I can see that. I'm kind of tough with that one too. Yeah, it's
what the thing was, like, I found that, like, with the Godfather films, there was this thing changed. That was kind of like the rise of the anti-hero in those periods. Like, you had Death Wish, you had Dirty Harry, things like that. But this is like the first time when you really had criminals who were kind of like being the protagonist. And then, like, with Goodfellas, like, you always knew what they were. Like, Joe Pesci, as much as you liked him, like, the one scene there, like, you knew he was a psychotic bastard. It's like,
you think I'm funny, like I'm a clown?
Yeah. I knew you. But yeah,
and the
tension in this thing was great too. And
tell me, what's so funny? What's so fucking funny about me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Still, still not. I know. He revealed he was joking, but I'm still not entirely sure he was joking.
I get with you.
It's like,
you know what's funny about that scene, Andy? I don't know if you ever heard this story. Pesci, of course, famously used to hang out with a lot of guys like this.
Yeah.
And he also, managed and was in a lot of the boy bands and stuff like that back in the day. So he'd hang out with a lot of these gangster types.
Four Seasons.
Yep. And specifically, and he actually witnessed something like this go down. In fact, the other scene too, I guess, is loosely based on something he said he had also seen go down, where the guy gets shot in the foot. So like, yeah, he said he specifically based the character on, like, not the real guy that he's playing, but somebody he knew growing up, basically. Like, yeah.
I can appreciate what Andy's saying about liking Goodfellas more than The Godfather, because they are two quite different.
I kind of do too. I can't argue with it. Yeah.
Goodfellas is much more hip and rock and roll in a way.
In a way, yeah.
The Godfather is much more
classical,
old school, classic, epic, sweeping family drama epic. So they're two very different movies. I could see how you could be attracted to one more than the other, depending on your tastes.
Well, and the other thing is this beginning's been copied, I don't know how many dozen times, to the point where Scorsese even kind of copies it himself in Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
That's right.
Almost brilliantly, but it's like, because like that's what makes Wolf of Wall Street almost feel like a quasi sequel to Goodfellas. For those who haven't seen it, like I can't guarantee or can't recommend it enough. This and that is like a double feature, be probably superb. But yeah,
and Margot Robbie does some of her best work in that film.
Those were the days.
Yes, indeed.
Great movie though, Goodfellas.
Yes, Goodfellas.
Timeless.
Indeed. God, there's a lot of ads on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Kind of perfect timing here for Barbie. Huh? and bless that lovely lady who was on with Yellow Flash last night. I do not know her from previously. I don't know if I'll ever run into her again, but she tried schooling me on 2001, and I'm just sitting. If you guys could have seen my face, I was polite and I just kept my fucking mouth shut for the most part.
Didn't see that, but give us the Cliff's notes. What was she?
Well, she was trying, because I was started talking about the opening or something like that, or I said something about the opening, and she's like, "Well, let me explain that to you." She goes, "It was a take on Stanley Kubrick of a movie called 2001," and I'm like sitting here thinking, "Girl, I got socks that are older than you."
Well, obviously, no one existed on the planet until she came.
No. I mean, she was a sweet girl and all, but I'm just like, are you really schooling me? I mean, I know you don't know who I am, but are you really schooling me, a man who's probably in his, as far as you know, at least 40s or 50s, on one of the most famous movies of all time? Not just that, but one of the most copied beginnings of all time. Like, if anything, look, I agree with like the whole thing with the super chat earlier. Yes, Ghostbusters is great, belongs number one on most lists. I even love Jaws, my favorite film of all time. I would still buy the argument if somebody told me 2001 has the greatest opening of any movie of all time, because guess what? It's downhill from there until you get to the end anyway, because unless you're totally fucking baked, the movie is rather boring until the end.
It's a tad slow.
It's a tad dry. Like, it's
and it's not even Kubrick's best movie. Not
by far.
Look, my joke is the moon landings were his best movie that he ever filmed.
Well, he didn't film those with as good as special effects as this.
I would have deliberately dumbed that down, though.
He deliberately dumbed it down.
I'm just kidding. Well, maybe.
But it does have a great opening, has a great ending. It's just that middle that sags, really, is what it is. But again, at the time it came out, and this is going to what Andy was saying earlier too, about like he just allowed us to just take in those special effects. He's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna drop the needle on some classic music and let these stoned fuckers just enjoy this shit. And I hate that aspect of it either. So, but the opening, I mean, come on, how iconic is this?
Yeah, and the music and everything is perfect. And
right,
I think you have to treat the movie. You have to approach it in a certain way when you're going to watch it. I mean, we're used to massive science fiction epics now, where there's tons of space battles and blah blah blah. This was a different thing entirely. It's much more cerebral. It's beautiful, and it's an elegy To
An
many.
elegy with LSD.
Yes.
That ending. Wow. That was
Yeah.
trippy.
It's a trip. It is a trip. Yeah. But, the beautiful technical precision of the space travel, making it look physically correct.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that.
And those scenes are just, I mean, dry as a bone, but chilling.
You know what's freaky as hell is when he's going, Daisy,
Langley.
It's
Stop
a very,
it, Dave.
very, very dry movie, but beautiful if you're open to it.
And the red light reading their lips.
Yeah,
I love the sequel too. Actually, believe it or not.
I actually enjoy the sequel.
I do, because it helps give you some answers. You're like, okay, good. Like you kind of figure some of this shit, but just like you feel vindicated, or however you want to put it. You're just like, okay, good.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's got a lot going for it, and I do recall though that the first time when I went to see the sequel in the cinema, it broke down 5 minutes before the end.
No shit, that's gotta suck.
That sucks. And I couldn't go back the next day either to another showing. I had to wait a couple of weeks, so I didn't know. It took me 2 weeks to figure out what.
They
was
didn't
going
figure
on.
out a way to get it to. Oh man, yeah, that's the problem with back then, man. Sometimes you were fucked.
Yeah, I enjoy the sequel. It's certainly not meant to be as epic, but I'm a Peter Hyams fan, so.
I'm trying to remember, was it Rob Bottin or who did the monkey suits in the beginning of this? Not Rob Bottin. Shit. The guy who did King Kong and some other stuff too, and
not the werewolf and
not Rick Baker, but the guy he
Baker.
worked with Rick Baker on that, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Rambaldi, Carlos Rambaldi.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Rambaldi. I'm surprised Andy doesn't know.
Nope.
Gary was here. He fucking know, Andy.
Yeah. Someone says Dick Miller, but
well, his buddy actually sculpted the werewolf outfit on that.
Oh wow! No, I'm almost positive it's Rambaldi.
Well, somebody says Dick Miller in the chat. I don't know
is it Dick Miller?
I don't know if that's a comment or a. I don't know if that's a comment or a name.
Douglas Trumbull did the spaceships, but who did the apes?
He did the apes. Yeah.
I thought it was Carlos Rambaldi. Was it? No, wait. Tippett didn't do him. He did stop motion. Well, he was going to say Dick Smith too, so it might have been Dick Smith. We're sitting here going like, whatever. Let's fucking just look it up.
Dick Miller was an actor, right? Now I've looked him up.
I like to give the chant a chance, though. But who did the ape suits?
Yeah, I don't remember.
2001. Stuart Freeborn. We were way off. Holy shit!
I was just going to say that.
I would have remembered that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great how
the name.
It's great how they got a young culture casino to appear as one of the apes as well.
Yeah, Dick Smith's the guy who did the cheap Halloween costumes. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on here. We got a few more to go. Here we go now. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Want to open a movie with excitement? Hell yeah. How about a giant boulder chasing down Indiana Jones? Indiana's journey to get the idol is a great introduction to the character, as well as his nemesis Belloc, and it has so many fun moments to it. Like that boulder, the movie gets on an unstoppable roll. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about, you said the magic word adventure, of course. Absolutely started out with a
when
bang.
you think of adventure, you think of one name, Indiana Jones.
You know, if only there was a woman in it.
If only.
Constantly screaming,
Indy! Yeah, and you're holding that wrong. You've got far too much in that bag. And it also tells you everything you need to know about the character and what he does.
I'm more of a treasure protector.
Yeah, so can't argue with these.
It belongs in a museum.
These are all great choices. Well, that's right. Just to see if they remade this now, there would be a UN cultural attaché outside waiting to arrest him for appropriating indigenous
Grave
cultural
robbing.
relics.
Nowadays, you're probably right. Sound of Music.
Oh,
Like The Lion King,
yeah.
this is a musical that opens with a song. Not just any song, though. The Sound of Music opens with Julie Andrews swinging around on a fucking hill like she's a nut job. That's how you put your cards on the table from the opening moments. Yes.
Yeah.
One of the most
Singing
iconic
Yetis.
scenes. Yeah.
It is actually. That's actually fair to say, and I think we forget this far down the line just how huge the Sound of Music was.
I was going to say, of all the movies we just talked about, would you argue that this might be probably the most parodied scene in all of cinema history?
Very much so.
If you think about it, if you really stop to think, like, how many movies have made fun of this?
Mel Brooks has probably done a few
times. National Lampoon's Vacation. How many cartoons? Just probably
rising of the music and then something going wrong is usually the. Yeah.
It just goes to show you how recognizable it is.
Yeah, I mean, the soundtrack to this movie was like, forget about the Beatles. This was number one for like 3 years in a row or something. It was just incredible, the sales that the soundtrack made. I think we had an 8-track in the car of this when I was a kid.
Oh, you're not wrong. I want to say until you're probably right. Until Saturday Night Fever, it was probably the highest selling soundtrack of all time. I would be willing to bet.
Huge, yeah. But it's a beautifully filmed moment, and I know it's much parodied, but Julie Andrews. I mean, who could be more?
I want to say Julie has actually parodied it herself a couple times. I think.
Well, I know that she did that. Was it Big? It was not Big. The Blake Edwards movie where she's topless.
I'm trying to remember.
That's it. She probably parodied it there. Yeah.
I swear I've seen her do it at least once or twice since then.
Yeah.
It's for something.
Yeah, but it is. These are all good choices, actually.
Yeah.
This is a good.
Well, that was the thing, though. But the point I think to be made there is you're right about, like, I mean, I know other soundtracks sold very well, but like I think that up until Saturday Night Fever, which would be a full, 10, 12 years, 77, 65 to 77.
12 years.
It took for them to get to another one that big. And then, I think that almost got beat by Grease, but it was close. But I still think Saturday Night Fever, for the longest time until I believe Titanic soundtrack was the highest selling.
Yeah. But that scene, I think even today, a lot of people know that scene that have probably never seen the movie.
You've seen it parodied so many times, it's like ingrained. Yeah. And then let's see here. We got Once Upon a Time in the West. Sergio Leone is someone who was named earlier. Epic Western opens with a 10-minute opening scene that is largely silent. Speaking of largely silent scenes, there you go. But also, that's somebody who knew how to shoot a movie without even having anybody would have like 5 fucking lines in it. But also rich with tension and will explode into violence. 3 men are waiting at a train station in effectively the middle of nowhere. It is clear they have ill intent, but they wait, and we wait. Then Charles Bronson's harmonica, one of Leone's men with no names, arrives, and things are about to kick up several notches. Go ahead, boys.
When somebody could make you hate Henry Fonda, that's talent.
That's right. Yeah, he loved playing the baddie in this. He absolutely loved it. It was
because he never got last scene. Who are you? And just sorry, spoilers.
Yeah. So Sergio Leone's requirements for casting were usually along the lines of how good are you with your eyeballs? What do you look like wearing a duster? And can you sweat a lot? And can you stand for long periods of time? Can you look dirty and stand for long periods of time?
Clint's like, I can do that. I do it in my sleep.
And it's interesting that this is a non-Clint one, of course.
And Charles is like, oh, you can do that, but I'm not getting dirty.
Yeah, that's right. But I get the musical numbers.
And I get the musical numbers. If there's any pretty ladies, I get to kiss them.
Yeah. It is. It's fabulous, fabulous opening in a classic movie. I mean, this is what a Western should be.
Yeah. It's in the top. It's Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn sets the tone for his Guardians of the Galaxy series right from the opening scene. We meet Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. We get the needle drop, and we get the undercutting of our protagonist. We get laughs. We also get action. The opening scene doesn't take itself seriously, but it's also flippant and becomes the crux of what makes Guardians of the Galaxy work. Okay, I see they're discounting the pre logo scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is another one I would argue you need that scene. Like that scene is actually more powerful than when you finally meet. Because the funny thing about that is my cousin was griping at us because like me and my other cousins were like, oh, we're talking about the Marvel movies and shit, like, oh God, Guardians of the Galaxy is so great, blah, 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 it's so hilarious. And we're sitting there playing up the scenes and are, doing the lines and all the shit from the movie. So she's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to go see that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Next family thing we get together, she goes, I got a bone to pick with you guys. We're like, what? I went to see that stupid Guardians movie. In the first 5 minutes, I'm fucking balling. Screw you, assholes.
It depends what the balling,
the death thing, and it is. It's pretty powerful. You're like, oh shit! Like this movie just kind of gets you right off the bat.
It is a great opening, and I like particularly the fact that it used not the hippest of songs, which
Oh yeah, once you get to the song.
Yeah, it wasn't like come and get your love.
Come and get your
red
love.
bone. They could have used like the Stones or something hip, but no, they went for.
Oh, that was 70s gold. That was on all the radio all the AM.
That set the tone with the soundtrack, right?
Redbone.
Like you knew that this movie was gonna. I mean, we already knew from the trailers, kind of, but like once you heard that, you're like, okay, this guy knows soundtracks. This is like a Tarantino kind of guy,
But it's a great introduction to the universe that they're building and to the character. Again, it tells you an awful lot about the character, even though it's really just doing a lot of dancing around.
Well, you get to learn, that he lost his mom when he was young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was abducted from Earth when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
And then you jump to when he's older and he's clearly doing what he's doing, but we learn pretty quickly that he's stealing this thing. Well, not really stealing it. I mean, he is stealing it, but I mean, he's getting there ahead of his other friends, and he's trying to do it on his own. And then he gets busted by these other guys. And it's like, yeah, it's a great action sequence. It's a great introduction to the character. We find out he's a womanizer because he's got that chick still. He's like, oh shit, I forgot you were here.
He's what we would call in the UK, because obviously that's my native homeland, a chancer. He's a bit of a chancer. Like he's slippery, always on the make, trying to get stuff done, looking to get ahead. He's a chancer.
Yeah.
It introduces him quite well.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Anything else to say, guys?
No, just actually I finally got around to seeing Guardians 3 recently. I hadn't seen it.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that bad, actually. I
liked it. I watched it again the other night. Yeah.
I would watch it again. I enjoyed it a lot.
I haven't seen it yet.
I particularly enjoyed
Not as good as the first two, but yeah.
I particularly enjoyed Adam Warlock's reference to King Crimson and Adrian Belew at the end.
I thought, I'm not surprised that you like that
myself
scene.
Laughing at that. I thought, well played. Who slips an Adrian Belew
James
King Crimson
Gunn
reference in?
That's who, James Gunn, yeah.
I thought that was perfect. Yep.
Speaking of music and Saturday Night Fever, holy shit, here we go. It's hard to argue that this is not a great opening, right? Like, it's been parodied how many fucking times, too? Speaking of movies.
Yeah.
It's been parodied. I mean, Ace Ventura, Teen Wolf parodies this scene. I can think of a few others, I'm sure.
What I want to know, Tom, is how did they get this picture of you in your early years?
It's my perfect hair. Everybody keeps fucking with my hair. I keep saying, leave my hair alone. What the fuck?
Culture's jealous right there.
Yeah.
He's totally jealous. As a film, Saturday Night Fever is a little hit or miss. And actually, I think it's a great film and much darker than people often expect. Well, yeah, because people often expect it to just be dancing. Yeah. It's not a fun movie about disco dancing, just so you know.
It's the Rocky of disco.
Right?
In a sense.
It is iconic for a reason. Set to the tune of the Bee Gees' Stay Alive. We see John Travolta's Tony Moreno, immaculately dressed, walking with purpose down the street. All he's doing is carrying a bucket of paint, but he remains utterly compelling. And funny thing about that is, if it wasn't for John Travolta, that wouldn't have been the opening track. Do you know the 70s?
Did he insist on that?
The opening track was originally just going to be Night Fever, the title track. But he goes, I'm not walking to that. They go, what do you mean? I'm not walking to that. I want this one. And he played the other song because he got, they got all the songs together before the movie, and he's like, I gotta have that. So yeah, he insisted that Staying Alive was the song that was under his walking, and he had it playing so he could walk in beat with it. Yeah, so it's like almost so people couldn't consider this movie a musical for that reason, and in that sense, it kind of is, because it's most of the time movies, when they're made, the music comes later, except for musicals, right? The music always is there for them presented as they're doing it. Saturday Night Fever is one of those exceptions where even though the characters are not singing the songs were still kind of part of the film in a way that, like I said, just that reactionary to it. And the way, same thing with the More Than a Woman scene is a great example. The Night Fever scene is a great example of how
never thought of that.
Gene Siskel, who this is one of his favorite films, believe it or not, he insisted that this was a musical.
I don't. I wouldn't say, I've never classed it.
He called it like a modern musical or nouveau musical or whatever. But yeah,
for me, it's a drama about the New York nightclub scene in the 70s that features music, as it has to, because that's the scene it's set in.
It is, but I think it's also a step to the jukebox musicals in a way.
Maybe nobody sings, as you say. No one in the movie sings anything that I can think of.
No, but the songs are so ingrained in the film, right?
Yeah, is it a musical? That's a debate. You could have a whole show debating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a traditional musical, but I guess I can understand Gene Siskel's argument about it.
Yeah. However, it is a great opening, and it encapsulates that scene very well.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, and as we've had so many parodies, we're kind of good, But yeah, if you look at it without thinking of those, it is a brilliant opening.
Speaking of a movie that makes you fucking bawl in the first few minutes.
Oh yeah.
Up. Here we go. Anybody who's ever had parents or grandparents or lost a loved one, like, my God, yeah, this movie is going to get you no matter what. Up is it cheating to include a montage in our list of best opening scenes?
Never.
Perhaps, but Up has one of the most memorable, effectively openings since the turn of the millennium. Even if it is maybe a stretch to call it a scene, it's the only reason people fondly remember a movie that frankly becomes kind of middling after the opening. You're not wrong. But the saga of Carl and Ellie absolutely floors and usually devastates, setting the table for the rest of the film. Yeah, I gotta agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with the montage.
It's one of the Pixar movies that I love, but I've only watched like twice. And that's possibly part of the reason. Is it's just it's a tough watch, and then, like you said, like once it gets past that opening scene, it's a little oh, No Country for Old Men. Yeah, the opening's definitely better than the ending, that's for sure. First we hear Tommy Lee Jones, Sheriff Tom Bell giving a little monologue about a depraved killer, which sets the tone for the cynicism or outright nihilism at the core of Coen Brothers' Best Picture winning movie. This sets up our meeting with Anton Chigurh, played indelibly by Javier Bardem, who also won an Oscar. A poor police officer who has arrested him doesn't know what he is dealing with. He turns his back on Chigurh for only a couple minutes, but that is all it takes to seal his fate. I didn't like this film very much.
Oh, I love it. And I love the book. And
it has moments, but I've heard the book is better though.
It's very faithful to the book in most respects.
Well, don't they mess with the ending though?
A little bit, but it's like 90% of the book is there. So I was a big Cormac McCarthy fan. I'm a big fan of. Well, he's gone now. But I was a big fan of his books. I enjoyed this thoroughly. I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, but this quirky. It's quirky, but again, they create this character. This it immediately tells you everything you need to know about this guy. That he's just not your normal passerby,
right?
I mean, is it one of the greatest openings of all time?
I don't know about that.
It's an argument. It's a good opening. I don't know if it's one of the greatest of all time.
Probably one of the best in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Well, considering this movie came out in 2007, which is more than 10 years ago.
that's true. Last 20 then, let's say.
Yeah.
When you get old, you lose your
15. I know, dude. You always lose a decade here or there. You're just like, fuck. Wasn't that just yesterday? Yeah.
Remember the first time that happened?
Go ahead.
I this kid that worked for me, he was carrying this girl back in the back stock room, and I said, "Put her down. What do you think this is, an officer and a gentleman?" He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Officer and gentleman." Like, huge movie. When did it come out? Like, I don't know, like 80, 81. He's like, "Dude, I wasn't born until 86." So I was like, "Look out of here." Didn't.
You know what's worse than that? You want to know one that makes me feel older than that one?
What's up?
Because at least that one's a little bit more obscure. I was sitting, when I was working at the video store, I was sitting there talking to this lady as I was checking her out, and we happened to get on, I don't even know how we got on the subject. We started talking about music videos and MTV. All of a sudden, one of her kids pipes up, and this was like fucking 15 years ago. One of her kids pipes up, what's a music video? And both me and the mom's mouths hit the floor. We're like, oh shit. We're like, yep. There's the generation gap right there. So we had to explain to her what a music video was. She's like, you know those videos you watch on YouTube where the singers are singing the song? Oh, yeah. She's like, well, there used to be this channel called MTV where they showed them all the time. Oh, you mean the channel where they got 16 and pregnant or something like that? She said, or whatever. We're like, yeah. So then another time, this is the other time I felt old. I was dressed as Freddy Krueger as I was handing out candy to kids. And I had like a real glove and everything. I did a pretty good job. The only thing I didn't do is my girlfriend at the time talked me out of doing a mask or the makeup. She's like, you're going to scare the fuck out of the kids. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Of course, all the parents knew exactly who I was, and they were giving me like, you know, high fives for the glove and the get up and everything. Finally, one kid walks up to me and goes, your Wolverine costume kind of sucks. And I looked at his mom and I said, yep, right there's the generation gap.
In a sense, he was right. It's kind of right. Because as a Wolverine costume, it did suck.
Well, and I can see why he said it, because here I am, like, at that time I had like bushier, like, you know, probably whatever, to where, you know, it was more brown and stuff too, to where it looked more like the mutton chops thing going on probably. And that's probably what made him think that. But I mean, I had the fucking fedora, the green sweater with the ripped, you know, everything, the tan pants, the boots, the glove, the whole 9 yards, except for the makeup. And yeah, the kid's just like, yeah, that's the worst fucking Wolverine costume I ever saw. I'm not making this shit up.
Everyone's a critic, Tom. Everyone's a critic.
I got witnesses. Anyway, here we go. Here's a movie, Star Wars. At this point, basically every moment of the original Star Wars trilogy is indelible. While the opening scene to the first film is perhaps not the top moment of the movie, it's definitely a great opening scene. First, we get the scroll, and then we get thrown right into the action with our droid pals, C-3PO and R2-D2. It's controlled chaos and perfectly sets a tone. You know, I'll say this much when it comes to this, and then I'll give you guys the floor. Star Wars, this opening scene of Star Wars, there's one thing I've heard more directors say in the last 50 years or 40 years-ish, ever since Star Wars has come out, than anything else. And that is, I was sitting in the theater and this huge Star Destroyer came over my head. And from that moment on, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I have argued that Star Wars has created more filmmakers, special effects artists, you name it, in Hollywood than any other film in history. I don't think anybody can argue with me on that, but if you want to, go right ahead. Otherwise, the floor is yours, boys. I agree. This is a great opening for a film. I mean, how can you not have Star Wars on?
Yeah, that thing was like, that was, when you talk about iconic, there's nothing that's, I mean, and again, parodies, how many times has that been copied and, you know, and borrowed and things like that? That whoever put together the idea of that Star Destroyer just keep going and going and going and going, it was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made, strong case to be made, that is the greatest opening scene of all time.
Yeah, it could just be George Lucas compensating for something, but I agree, it's probably.
And again, at this distance from the original theatrical release, it's hard to, it's easy to forget the impact of it. But as a 13-year-old kid sitting in a cinema, as I was,
I can't imagine.
it was unbelievable. It was jaw-droppingly thrilling when this and the sound,
closest thing
and the
I
sound,
right?
Not just the visuals, the sound, and it was.
Yeah.
I was in the only cinema in the city that had full
Surround
surround.
sound.
And it just, the whole place was shaking. And I thought, this is the greatest moment of my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just it. Sadly, I wasn't, or whatever, I wasn't born yet when this movie came out. So, like, my closest to experiencing something like this in the theater, I would put two things. Like, on a personal level, was probably seeing Ninja Turtles. Because just seeing them in live action at 10 years old blew my fucking mind. The next closest thing I can think of that probably had the hype that Star Wars did was probably Independence Day. Like, that was I've seen a lot of movies with packed theaters, but that movie was so packed. I don't remember being so elbow to elbow with people as I did when I saw Independence Day. But we didn't give a shit. And the whole place was like a fucking concert right after that speech, right? So I got to imagine when the Death Star blew up that people just got up and cheered.
Oh,
right?
we did. It was like leaping up and down, and it was that. You're right. It was like being at a concert.
And when you saw Vader's ship spinning out off into the distance, it was like, ooh, will he be back?
That hope or that tease of what could come, yeah.
But then the worst part,
waiting 3 years.
Oh no, you got the worst because you didn't have the toys. You got
that's right, for the first year, the early bird coupon.
I think talking of getting up in a cinema and cheering, there's only been, I think the one that sticks in my mind as a younger man was Rocky and Rocky 2. Packed cinema. Everybody gets up when the fight at the end is on, and is
See, I can't think of a world of seeing. That's the thing. I lived in a world where Rocky already existed, right? Like Rocky was Rocky.
It was just that experience was incredible to have a whole cinema.
I can't imagine that, right? Like, to me, it's like I would love to, but I can't.
Guys, I can't tell you what it was. I was born in Philly. I lived right outside of Philly my whole life. And for this area, when that came out and Rocky happened, oh my God. Every kid in the neighborhood trying to drink raw eggs and throwing up.
I've heard that. I don't know how many times. I can't even think of something in my lifetime like Rocky, though. Like, Star Wars, like I said, that's the closest I could probably compare to that. But like Rocky and certain other ones, like, man, that's tough.
I mean, I've been in many mmovies since where people have been clearly enjoying themselves, having a great time, but to stand up and cheer and go along with the action in the movie, and it doesn't happen to that extent now. I don't think. I mean, maybe many places it does. What do I know? I'm not.
Well, the list kind of ends on a doozy here. It ends on The Matrix. It's a good opening. Would I argue it's one of the best of all time, though? I don't know.
It's pretty slick, but
I mean, it is a cool opening. But
I don't know. I think of the whole movie as one. I don't really think of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the twist is where the movie really gets interesting to me. Yeah, because that's another thing I liked about the film is it doesn't wait forever to give you the twist. It actually gives it to you pretty early on. Yeah.
I mean, if I was to think of one scene from that movie, it would always be we need guns, lots of guns.
That's what I mean. There's more iconic scenes than the opening, I guess.
Yeah.
Bullet Time, for instance, is a more iconic scene.
Yeah, it's a good opening, but I don't think it doesn't have the emotional impact some of them do.
No, especially after coming off of Star Wars.
I mean, like that one is a visceral, emotional, something tugging at something inside you opening. The other one is, well, that's just pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, here's another one in the chat. Like, I would actually agree that Highlander probably has a better opening and does a similar thing.
Oh yeah,
yes,
very similar, but a much better opening.
It's I don't know. I would agree.
It's funny. I never really thought about how similar those movies are if you kind of think about it in a sense. Not so much like the world's aspect, but just kind of replace the Matrix aspect with him being
yeah.
I mean, anyway,
there's a certain
there's parallels there.
Oh yeah, but then I mean, you're talking about the conflict between two
yeah.
people, so yeah, that's pretty.
And that's
common.
it. That's that whole list. And I think we're gonna wrap this up here.
Those weren't in order though. They just put them. They didn't say.
From what Clobby was, or not Clobby, Tox was saying, that they were basically just out of order, no specific order.
Yeah, no specific
think.
order. Yeah. I'm old school. I would put Star Wars at the top if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I'd put Jaws or Star Wars somewhere at the top.
Yeah. Was Touch of Evil in that list?
No, there was no Kubrick or Orson Welles or Hitchcock.
Well, so there was no.
There was Kubrick.
Citizen
I meant Hitchcock.
Kane.
That's what I meant. Yeah,
no Citizen Kane, no Touch of
Citizen
Evil.
Kane, no Touch of Evil.
Because that's an 11-minute opening scene.
I know, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Good Wrench, thank you for becoming a member. Alarax Harrison, if I'm saying that right, says all these great past movies to rewatch, and Hollywood can only make crap these days. Let them stay on strike. Who needs them anyway? I don't. You're not wrong. We got over 100 years worth of movies to watch.
Oh, I'm not hurting. I've got a ton of stuff, and I'm watching. I've just spent the day compiling a list of 25 Korean movies that either I've got to watch that are out or are coming out. So,
yeah, I gotta agree. Like Cliffhanger's a great opening here.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't listed. Is there any other ones you guys can think about out there? Go ahead and throw them in the chat or throw them in the comments.
Just because of the
Top Gun, Cyborg.
Just the talk over at the beginning. I like the chaos.
We got Trey Schneider, who's a maximum effort puppy, and says, GE panel, or good evening, I believe. Jurassic Park and Star Wars are my fave. Tom, I tagged you in a thread on YouTube video that breaks down Disney Star Wars budget, confirms Solo and Palpatine lost money. Wow. We already kind of knew they did. But yeah, thanks for that, Trey, and I'll check that out when I get a chance here. Appreciate it. Got Lost Boys. That's another great opening. Demolition Man, The Professional, Road Warrior. Oh yeah, Road Warrior should be on there. Conan, I don't know, maybe, yeah. Time Bandits.
Conan's
Lost Boys.
Doesn't that start with just from him as a child?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of more straightforward.
It's a little bit more of a sort of montage of him aging. But
Back to the Future, maybe. I kind of like, kind of. It sets the tone for sure. The Godfather, I think, should be on there too. I agree. Those are some great ones, guys.
The Godfather, yeah. I mean, America, when he's talking about America.
I believe in America.
Yeah, great
the meaning of life, yes. Whether you're talking about the short film that intertwines with the movie or The Fish, both of them are great. What's funny is I think my kid likes always what I watched it once in a while when I was my kid was younger. He liked the beginning of the movie with the pirates in the building, but he never really liked the rest of the movie.
You know, as soon as we're finished the show, Tom, we'll think of 500 others.
Well, that's the problem with these things. They get contagious. It's like going down the rabbit hole because you just think of one thing leads you to another, to another, to another.
It does. Jay Goodwin mentioned a Monty Python thing, the Crimson Permanent Assurance. Well, that was
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yep.
To the Life of Brian. Well, that's a great opening.
No, it's not in Life of Brian. It's in Meaning of Life.
Crimson. Oh, that was the sporting Meaning of Life. Sorry, you're right.
That's what I was talking about because that's the part my kid liked. He didn't like the rest of it though. Except he would do the fishy part or whatever.
The one that supported Life of Brian was the fake travelogue with the gondolas, more fucking gondolas. And everyone's watching it thinking, what is this? And eventually it reveals itself as Monty Python at some point. But Life of Brian's opening is a classic.
All the Monty Python. Well, it's just the musical numbers alone are great. And then you got the animation and
starting with the real Messiah on the cross and then drawing back and then they're arguing. I mean, some people still find it offensive to this day.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
I don't think he's referring to. Oh no, was it the meek will inherit the earth? The Greeks will inherit the earth. You know. Well, he's not referring. He's referring to general dairy produce in general, not because they can't hear anything.
How about that scene that was actually prophetic? Like, I want to be called Loretta.
Yeah.
It's,
Want to be a
it's
woman.
symbolic of his struggle against reality.
Want to be a woman? Yes, I want to have a baby. You want to have a baby? You can't have a baby. You don't have a womb.
Was the fetus going to just stay
In a box?
off nipple chips? Get them all out.
It's symbolic.
Splitter.
See, even Monty Python knew back in the day what we're gonna have to deal with.
Oh yeah.
Cryam says it's been nice having a couple hours focusing on something we like, detoxifying from the day-to-day rants. That's what this show is all about, my friend.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that sentiment, because that's a pretty good way to sum this show up. So, Andy, anything you got coming up you want to plug on your?
I'll be on Doomcock Show on Wednesday and Ranker Steve's Manorama on Rumble on Thursday.
Yeah, we're supposed to be doing some kind of crossover one of these days here. We're working on it. So stay tuned for that. And Rock Fan, anything you got going on?
I do. Tomorrow on my channel, I'm going to have a really, really exciting, fun show. The guest is Anthony Garcia, who's a musician from Austin, fantastic multi-instrumentalist musician, and also happens to be the husband of Kerry Smith. So that's going to be a lot of fun. This guy's great independent musician, but also we're going to talk about his influences, many of which are, I share in terms of classic old country, metal, classical music, whatever. He's got some fantastic influences too, and things. So we're going to, as well as showing his music, we're going to, have just a general chat about the music that we love. So that'll be a lot of fun. 3 p.m. tomorrow on my channel. I'm stopped now, Tom, so you can unmute yourself. Or I could keep
Sorry
going.
about that. Toxic Man Flu, what you got going on? Anything at all? Are you around?
Oh, he's still away.
Okay. Somebody just popped in here and they popped out. I have no idea who it was. I didn't catch him.
So, but anyway, yes.
Did they pop in a window? Because then we would know who it was.
I thought it might have been Mikey, but I wasn't sure. But he had a deal to take care of. So, yeah. All right, kids. With that, speaking of Mikey, why don't we play his anthem to take us away? In memory of Mikey not being here tonight and having to work.
We shed a tear.
We shed a tear.
We poured one out for him.
Of his fist, when he starts, you'll be done, son. That's right. Here he comes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mexican Iron Man. He's made from aluminum cans.
We miss you, Mikey. Come back. And he works too much. Arriba, arriba.
No lady can resist the magic in his kiss, the woo of his tongue. No man can resist the might of his fist. When he starts on you, you'll be done, son.
Bésame mucho.
I got molested in a little boy's room.